let's get to our
Absolutely.
member-specific segments. Everything party games. Jake, why don't you
Hey.
when you start off, tell us the joys of the party game. What's so great about party games?
Well, party games can fill the unknown dead space of like, what's a group of people going to do when we all get together and sit around and there's nothing to do? I mean, I don't know how
Yeah.
many times I've gone to a party and like, 8 to 10 adults sit down and discuss something. Like, I don't think I've ever done that. So it's nice to be able to get together with friends and have fun, and it gives you something to do, something that you can all enjoy.
Yeah, game night, party night, the party game nights. I walk into one of those environments and people are screaming and yelling and shouting and there's just joy in the room. And
Yeah, yeah. No one has politics night. Like, hey, let's get together on Thursday and just talk about politics. Or anyway, I don't go to that night. Maybe people do have that. But no, party games are great. I mean, it brings people together. It lets people use their minds in ways they might not during the rest of the week, and either to flex their competition or flex their cooperation, which are both good things.
And when we're talking outside of our hobby games, when we're talking about mass market games, they are the few games that adults still play. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. It's a way to get in touch with your child side and sit down with a board game and like have some fun that you might not otherwise do.
So let's just get to definitions just a little bit. What makes for a great party game, Jake? What are the...
I think a great party game is easy to learn,
Yep.
easy to play, and doesn't take too long.
Yep.
Doesn't have, let's say, how do I want to phrase this? It doesn't make anybody feel terrible, if you know what I mean. Like, even when you lose, you're still laughing that you played.
I'm going to go a little different way with that one because I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think in some cases, party games can make people feel pretty bad. Sometimes worse than other games because there's a whole bunch of people around and you just got slammed.
I guess maybe I'm always the optimist, but I like to think that people are getting together to play party games know it's for the fun of it.
Yes,
as opposed to like spending 6 hours on something that if you lose in the end, you're like, well, there went my day. I can't believe it. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. That's a different point, and that is fun is the most important thing, and that is absolutely
well
true in a party game. Fun is more important than balance, competition, anything else.
Yeah,
fun is the most.
That it's easy to remember. That's why you're together.
Yes. Absolutely. I think all of those things are true. The other thing I will say is that party games tend to be very what would be conversational, personal. They're very communicative. They're not you're not staring down at a board. You are looking people in the eye and you are trying to communicate with them. Right?
I agree. Good call. Yep.
Yeah. So a party game, I guess, is where having fun is much more important than winning, right?
For sure.
But everybody is trying to win, right? Invariably, there are some games. We'll get to a few of them where are people trying to win? Is this actually a game? And the answer is kind of, but almost not. Right? That can sometimes be a party game. Player interaction. I think that's the way to describe it. Right?
Yeah. Good call.
So let's talk about some Taboo.
Taboo.
Old games. So we're going to talk old games first, right? These are mass market games. Taboo is a pretty simple game, right? Can you describe it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a word. You're trying to get someone to say a word, right?
Correct,
You're giving clues to get a word, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, exactly.
It's never one of my favorites,
Yeah.
but I think that's what that was.
And you have a list of 5 words or so that you cannot say, trying to get that person to guess it. And
sure. And usually those words are very similar to the word. Like those would be the best clues.
Those are absolutely the best clues. So much so that it is very difficult to guess it without that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the gimmick of it is that there's a buzzer in the game, a loud, annoying buzzer, and the other team gets the buzzer, and they get to hold it right next to you, and they get to buzz it the moment you say any one of those 5 words that you're not allowed to say, right? Oh, which, by the way, that's a communication limitation game. The Crew is a
Mm-hmm.
communication limitation game. Lots and lots of these party games are based on communication limitations, and that's what makes things fun because you're trying to communicate, which, as we said, player interaction, communication is a big part of these games, right?
Yeah.
But you can't say it this way, so you have to think around that. All right, next up, Balderdash.
Yes.
Balderdash is
Another word game.
and by the way,
word game.
a lot of these games are based on public domain games that that come before. Balderdash is based on the old game Dictionary. Literally just Dictionary. What you would do is you would get the biggest, oldest OED, the Oxford English Dictionary, and you would open it up and you would find a word that you have never heard of. And you would name it, and you would list it to everybody, and everybody would get a little slip of paper and a little pen, and they would spell out that word, and they would write their own fake definition of that word, and you, looking at the actual definition in the dictionary, would write the actual definition. You would shuffle them, you would fold them up, you would shuffle them up, then you would read them out to the group, and everybody would have to vote on which is the real definition. Balderdash.
Yeah, I like this one. This one's something I always liked.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
And Balderdash, you get a point for everybody who guesses your answer, your fake answer. Your fake answer. Right. You also get a point if you guess the correct answer, right? And so on and so forth. Modern Balderdash has different categories of varying success. Let's say that Balderdash has the category. The first category is the definition category, which I still think is the best. It's still the best. But they would have other categories like initials, where they would give an acronym like XL, SL.
You got to say what you think they mean.
Yeah, and you have to say this is what that represents exactly. There would be another one which is strange laws, where they would say in New Zealand it is illegal to. To park your, to take your ostrich and then dash, and then you have to fill it in, and you have to say what that is. Movies. There was a movie one which would give you the title of some old, long forgotten, horrible movie, almost always, right? Because otherwise you would know it, and you would have to say. You have to the log line for it exactly, basically, or what is unique about it. And then there was another one where they would say famous people, and they would say important people or whatever, and they would give you the name of a person, and you have to say why that person is of some renown. And of course, it's never anybody of real renown. Otherwise, you would know the name, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Giuseppe Tornatore, right? And you'd be like, Giuseppe Tornatore. Well, I'm actually using the name of an actual famous person, but let's say you never heard that name, right? Some people would say, it was the first pizza maker in the New World, right? Oh, okay, good, that makes sense, right? Or holds the record for the most times jumped on a pogo stick, right? And everybody writes your own definition of it, trying to get people to guess that. It's a game in which the best liar wins.
The most creative liar.
Well, or the most convincing liar, really, right?
Well, yeah, but what's the difference?
Yeah. When we play this game, and we play it not infrequently, what ends up happening is we end up just trying to say, all right, that's clearly Dimitri's answer.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, well, if you play with the same people long enough, you know which way people are going to lie.
Well, except you think you do, right? And they say, oh, well, clearly that's Tom's answer, right? And, and sometimes they're right, and sometimes they are not at all right.
Yeah.
And the actual answer is what they're doing. So Balderdash, great game. Pictionary.
All right.
Why don't you take Pictionary?
Pictionary, classic. Not ever really one of my favorites, but you're given a buzzword and you've got to draw it.
Yep. Get people to guess
That's it. It's as simple as that. And if you're good at drawing, then you could do it every time.
The phrase "baby fish mouth" is where this comes from, right? That's
when
Harry met Sally.
It's for me. It was never super awesome because not everybody can draw the same.
Well, yeah, but being able to draw well wasn't necessarily the key to it, right? It's being able to communicate quickly is more the point.
Yeah, sure. Which is also something I don't super love. I don't like to be hurried, but that's me personally.
Then there's Trivial Pursuit. I think we don't need to explain what that is. Everybody knows Trivial Pursuit.
Yep.
was a phenomenon, by the way. Was Canadians developed it and put it out basically under their own auspices, and in many ways created the models by which our hobby now exists, where we don't need to go through one of the big 3 or 4 publishers. We can do this independently, right? Scattergories, Catchphrase is another one. Catchphrase is a game where you have an actual device, and not that's dissimilar from Taboo. Apples to Apples is the newer game, but kind of plays almost like an old game in a lot of ways. That's one of the ones where, is it a game? Is Apples to Apples a game? The way it works is you get a hand of cards, and then a card of a different color is flipped out in the center, and it's going to say, it says something that will not relate to any cards anybody has, but you have to pick the card that you think comes the closest to matching that. Right, for lack of a better explanation.
No, that's right.
The problem,
I only ever played it once.
The problem in the game comes in the how do we judge, right? And the answer is whoever flipped over the card gets to choose whoever, whichever answer is right. And the problem is that in the playing of those cards, invariably people are saying, well, no, it's more like this, right? And you get to quickly understand, oh, this is your card and this is your card. And you have 2 points, one more point, and you win the game. I'm not going to pick yours, and all of a sudden it becomes a weird sort of thing, right? It's not really a thing.
Yep.
Let's pick a couple of other old ones that are real classics. Skull.
Okay.
Or Skulls and Roses is another version of that right now. This is one of the oldest games around, actually. Variations of it go back a long way.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is you have 4 coasters. 3 of them have skull. 3 of them have flowers or something else. One of them has a skull, or 3 of them don't say anything, and one of them has a skull. You are going to put one of them down in front of you, and then people are going to have to either put more down in front of them or bid. And what they're bidding is
a bidding game. Yep.
How many of these can I flip up before I flip up the dreaded skull?
Yep. It's an interesting game. We played that one a lot as a little bit of a filler, or like as a waiting for someone to show up kind of game.
Yes. My family plays this every time we all get together, right? And
I always remember liking it.
Yeah, Paul and I are, nemesis. My kids are very good at the game.
It's on my honorable mention of top 5.
Really?
I'd say it's I think it's my 6. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
If only just because I have so many fond memories playing it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a couple other old games. Liar's Dice and
great.
Right?
Great game.
Right. A few dice and a solo cup, and all of a sudden you've got a game, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Bluffing game, very much so.
100%.
Very psychological game, right? It's very much trying to figure out who you're going to go after, and
it's not so unlike Skull, really. I mean, the flower. It's similar lines of thinking. About
I think that's true.
Opponents.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
So these games, as opposed to being communication limitation games, these are who is lying to me and what are they lying about. Yep. So Balderdash, Skull, Liar's Dice, and Werewolf. We should bring up Werewolf. Werewolf,
I never played it. Honestly, Tom, I had to Google it. I never played that game.
You never played Werewolf?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, Jake, that's amazing.
I know.
Well, you played. You've played
crazy.
Avalon many, many times, and Avalon essentially is a derivation of Werewolf.
Well, there you go. Maybe that's why. Maybe our group loved Avalon so much that they never bought Werewolf out.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
Yeah.
I will say Werewolf is one of these games where you can reveal character like I've never seen before. I have a uncle-in-law, my wife's uncle, Marine from Vietnam, man of few words, very. His heart is never on his sleeve. He is not going to tell you how he's feeling or anything like that. I got him in a game of Werewolf, and he came alive. He was like screaming like, "No, she's lying to you. Kill her. We have to kill her right now. Come on." I have never seen this guy be like this ever, and just completely came alive. I noticed that this happens a lot with older people. My parents also really into the game. I think it's because back in the day, a lot of people, there were parlor games that people would play, and they grew up playing parlor games, and this is a parlor game very much.
You're right.
And that's kind of what they got into, which was really kind of interesting. And then there's the new era of games, right? I'm just going to name a few, like Just One is amazing. We're a really great game.
Yep.
Avalon,
Love it.
As an improvement on Werewolf because you don't get eliminated. Codenames, right? Hugely successful game by Vlada Chvátil. Telestrations, which kind of that comes after a game called Eat Poop You Cat, which is the that's the public domain party game that people just a piece of paper that you roll up as you keep going, right?
Yep.
Dixit, Time's Up, Wavelength, which is the brand new one that we've been talking about, Wits and Wagers, which kind of takes Trivial Pursuit in a different direction. And then some brand new ones like Throw Burrito and Neanderthal Poetry. Neanderthal Poetry essentially is Taboo. It's a new version of Taboo in which everything you say has to be a single syllable, right?
Throw Burrito.
Throw Burrito. Have you got it yet?
I have. I played it. Oh, if you could call it playing.
It's just. It's giving your kid a chance to throw something at Daddy and hit him in the face.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Unless you're playing with 3 adults, and then it's the weirdest thing ever.
Did you play? Who did you play with 3 adults?
I sure did. I played with our good friend Matt and our friend Ollie and a couple others, and it was not. I didn't like it. I honestly, I'm not putting down a game people might like, but I thought it was the stupidest thing I ever seen. It was just like, are you kidding? Come on, really? Is this really what we're doing now?
It is. I'm guessing you got hit by the burrito more than other people.
I first of all, I have no interest in hitting somebody with a burrito, and I absolutely don't want to be hit by a burrito. So yeah, not for me.
Oh my god,
not on my top.
Oh my god. I will say this about the new versions of these games: a lot of them are derivations of older games, and a lot of them are really, really good. The new crop of party games have taken older designs and just made them just sort of focused on what is the most fun thing about that, and let's focus on that. Right? It's really great. Let's go over our top 5 party games of all time. First of all, do you have an honorable mention? Because I do too.
Yeah, I do.
What's your honorable mention?
My honorable mention, wait, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. It was Skull.
Wait.
It was the
Skull.
It was the the cards.
Oh yeah, no, Skull. Fantastic.
That one because I had so much. We called it Hearts or whatever it was called, Roses and Skulls.
Skulls and
was the version I got to play with you guys, but that was just because I had so much fun playing it.
Absolutely.
It's not brilliantly genius, but it was super fun. That was my honorable mention.
My honorable mention is Just One. Just One is an amazing game. The fact that it didn't make my top 5 just means that there are so many great games out there. But the idea is a person picks a word that they can't see, but everyone else can see, and everybody has to write just one word that combined together, looking at all of those words, the person has to say that word or phrase. And the trick to it is if more than one person writes the same word, those words do not count, and the person doesn't get to see them. Wonderful. Just amazing game.
Yep.
Never had a bad round of it. Played it with every type of group of people that you can imagine. Everybody loves it. Everybody absolutely loves it. All right. So do you have a number 5? Is that correct?
I do, yes. My number 5 was Balderdash.
Oh, Balderdash, so good.
So good. So good. I like the idea of coming up with silly, funny things that are not silly and funny enough to be completely unbelievable.
Yep.
But also that you can make somebody laugh if they chose it. That I loved.
It's a writer's game. It's a game for people who if you can take, if you know your Latin roots, you can take a little bit of a Latin root of some word you've never heard
That's
before, and you can riff off of that. You're off to the races. My number
Absolutely.
5 is Wavelength. Wavelength is that fairly new game. As you can hear, I keep mentioning it in
Yep.
game night because I keep playing it. It is a wonderful game about nuance. It's about how close to this versus this is this. Can I come up with something that is going to get somebody to say, between these two opposite ideas, this is 37% as opposed to 39%.
I loved it.
Oh,
You know what? That was almost my honorable mention. But I think I've only played it like twice.
Yeah.
And it just didn't, I haven't played it enough, but I loved it every time.
The time I had the one that was people who can beat you up versus people you can beat up.
Yeah.
And I looked across the table at my friend Jim, and I said, Jim.
Right.
The discussion, the humbling discussion of people talking about how out of shape I am, and talking about whether or not I could actually beat up my friend or whether or not he would beat me up. The places that conversation went, and I just had to sit there and wait for them to put the dial somewhere, just told me this is an amazing game that has so much depth to it, so many amazing things.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah, it's amazing. What's your number 4?
Number 4 was Liar's Dice.
Liar's Dice is great. Just amazing game.
Liar's Dice was my number 4.
Absolutely love it. I'll play it anytime.
Played it anytime. Played it with my dad growing up.
Yeah. My number 4 is Wits and Wagers. I loved Trivial Pursuit. I'm a trivia guy. I go to pub trivia games and things like that.
Sure.
I love trivia. And to have a trivia game in which you don't have to know the answer to win the game is amazing. The idea in Wits and Wagers is the questions are all unknowable. How many gallons of water are in an Olympic-sized swimming pool? Right?
Yeah.
All of the answers are always a number, and the number is right. How many states had ratified the 13th Amendment by 1960? Right?
Sure.
Things like that, right? And you're like, you can't know the answer. You're never going to know the answer, but
you can make a bet.
Can you make an educated guess, right?
Yeah, right.
So in terms of the swimming pool, it's like, okay, well, a gallon of water is this big, and a pool is this big, and and somebody knows that. Well, I know that this size pool, like a kiddie pool, is this many gallons, right? And so, they have a much better point of reference, right? And you are writing down the answers, and then the answers are all flipped up, and they're all put on a betting grid. The person with the answer in the middle of these of this string of numbers, right, pays 1 to 1. The people at the extremes pay 5 to 1, and then you're betting. You're betting your money, but you're not just betting your money on the odds. You're betting your money on the people. Right? It's like who is going to have a better guess, right? Exactly. Where are you at? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant game. It really, really works well. Dominic Krapachetz did an amazing job in designing it. What is your number 3, Jake?
3 was Just One.
Just One. There we go. There we go.
Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting because I've also only played that one a few times, but I liked it so much it made it up onto that spot. Like it just clicked immediately, and I think I was the one that was like, we don't have to move on to the real game tonight. We can just play this the whole time.
Totally.
This doesn't have to be a filler for me. But
I'll say that our game nights, my game nights, and Maddie's as well, are a little. I don't see this at a lot of other game nights. When I've been to other people's game nights, they generally party games generally are not brought out. So I like the fact that we still play party games. I like and my favorite night is to play a good, heavy, crunchy game, and on either side of it to play a fun game as well. And my ideal night is start with Avalon, play a good, heavy game, and then end with a party game. That's kind of.
I hear you.
That's the three.
Well, we've done that many times. By the way.
That's the 3-course meal. That's the best.
Yep.
My number 3 is Telestrations. I have had such good experiences with Telestrations. The idea is it's telephone with pictures. Basically, somebody is going to, and by the way, barely a game. It is barely a game. You are
Right.
going to get everybody gets a word or phrase or expression or something along those lines. They have to draw a picture, and then they flip that picture over and they pass it over to the next person. The next person looks at the picture and they write what they think that phrase or expression was.
Mm-hmm.
Then they flip that over and pass it to the next person. The next person does not see the original phrase or the original picture. They just see the phrase that person guessed,
what
and
they got. Yeah,
exactly,
right.
and
It's,
so on and
it's
so
clever.
forth until it comes back around. Eat Poop You Cat was the original game of that. It was the public domain. Just people came up with it, and
Yep.
the reason that it's called Eat Poop You Cat is somebody started with something like Catwoman, and before you know it, 5 people later, Eat Poop You Cat is what we guessed that expression was.
Yep.
The
I
reveal
think
of the progression of how the word has degraded, and occasionally, every once in a while, you get one of these amazing things where it goes so horribly awry, and then somehow comes back, and the last answer is the same as the first response.
amazing.
Astonishing.
I think that might have made my list if I had ever had a chance to play it, but we just never brought it out.
Really? Oh, I'll bring it out for you when
All
we're
right.
back to playing together.
But I could see having a lot of fun with that one.
You would love it. You would love it. What's your number 2?
Code names.
Oh, so good.
It just clicked with me, and that's another one that I could say, like, we do not need to move on to something heavy. I would do this all night.
Yeah, Codenames is absolutely amazing.
It's just great.
To me, it's not in my list because even though it is kind of a party game, it's kind of not a party game. Like for me, the party games are ones that can be played by large groups of people, and Codenames pretty much is a four-person affair for the most part.
That's fair.
Play it with more, but no question about it that it's an amazing game. You can play Codenames Pictures with kids. It is not quite as good as the original Codenames. The great thing about Codenames is that the words that are out there have multiple meanings and a lot of nuance to them. So it's a really good word game in a lot of ways. People don't look at. But my number 2 is Time's Up. And in particular, Time's Up Title Recall. Interesting fact that Seth Jaffe, one of the founders of Tasty Minstrel Games, complained to me and said, Time's Up Title Recall is the worst Time's Up. All of the other Time's Ups are better. The original Time's Up is basically just the game Celebrity, public game Celebrity, where everybody would write down the name of a famous person, fold them up, and then teams of 2 would get these, and they would have to get the other person to guess the person that they're talking about as quickly as they can and go through as many as you can. And Time's Up was just a game in which those cards were all there, except that the game had 3 rounds. Round 1, you can say anything you want. You can talk about it as long as you don't say like if I have Leonardo da Vinci, I can say, okay, Renaissance guy. He made that that bicycle with the wings, right? Painted the Mona Lisa, right? All that sort of stuff. Shares the same name with DiCaprio, right? And so you can say all of that, and then the person, Leonardo da Vinci, right? Good. Then you go on to the next one, and so on and so forth. Second round, you use the exact same cards. Shuffle them up, deal them out to people. Same deck of cards. You can only use one word. So it becomes a memory game. Like, what is that, right?
Right, based on from before.
Right, so Mona.
Mm-hmm.
Leonardo da Vinci. Right, boom. Right. And so on and so forth. Third round, gestures only, no words.
Just charades.
Right?
Yeah, just charades.
And it's amazing that it actually works because you can get people to do that. Now, Seth Jaffe's issue with Title Recall is that if you have Gilligan's Island, you can just hum the tune of Gilligan's Island and make it through all 3 rounds, right? And all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
Yeah, but this one tweaks it. I could see, charades and was never my super favorite, but I could see this being fun.
It's astonishing because it's teams. The team aspect of it makes it amazing. You're trying to work together, and the fact that it's against the clock, right?
Sure.
You've got 1 minute to get as many of these as you can. There is an energy, an excitement, it's electric. When the game is going well, it's absolutely electric. I've done it at like Christian conferences and stuff like that with church members and these old stodgy church members who we just spent all day. I'm just bored out of my mind in these meetings and stuff like that. We get together and we start playing this game, and people are just screaming and yelling and shouting and just having an amazing time. It's incredible. I think we're down to number one. Here we go.
Should we say our number one at the same time? Or no?
Well, we're different. We're definitely different. What's your number one party game of all time?
Avalon.
Yeah. Yeah. I also didn't put this down because it's almost not a party game. But yes, Avalon is astonishing. By the way, of all the games on the list, Avalon is my number one game, period. But for me, it doesn't quite make the party game thing because Maddie gets so sad and so morose and depressed when he's playing it that it kind of leaves party mode and it becomes just sort of more. It's more of a torture party game. So it's like a little thing. But yeah, what more can we say about Avalon? My number one was your number five, Balderdash.
Oh, nice.
For me is it's and by the way, really kind of the only old school game. All of the other ones are newer school, even though some of them are they're just variations of public domain games that have been around forever. But nonetheless, the only old school game is Balderdash. I think it is. And by the way, let me think. Balderdash is Dictionary. Time's Up is Celebrities. Telestrations is Eat Poop You Cat. So my 3, 2, and 1 are all public domain games that have just been rebranded and put together in
somebody made a buck on
in
them.
a good fashion. But Balderdash, when it works, like I love it's a horrible thing about me, but I love fooling people. I love there is nothing better than seeing somebody debating these 5 different definitions of this word and saying, look, nobody would have just come up with this. Obviously, that's the real answer, right? And no, I came up with it.
Right.
No, I got you. I suckered you in. It's a horrible thing about me, but it's one of my favorite things in the world. A good game of Balderdash, and when I don't win Balderdash, I love it too because I love Dimitri is very good at it. Paul is very good. We have a lot of really experienced liars in our group that are just wonderful at coming up with these just really off base things
and yet
that
believable.
you would think like nobody would have ever written that, or I'm pretty sure I've heard of this word before and I think that's the actual definition. Nope. Paul just came up with it.
Well, let's get a Balderdash night.
Totally.
Let's get that together.
100%.
Hey, if you enjoyed that video, you very well might enjoy the other videos you now see being suggested to you on screen. Also, we'd greatly appreciate it if you could like, share, or subscribe to our Game Brain channel. Thanks so much.